while building this page today. So with this, I'll just open up my code editor. I'll start off by creating my own folder, if you may. Just land upon maybe a little folder. I'll just name it BB for now. Move it outside. Yes, sorry. And I'll create a new HTML file, that is, I'll name it index.html. Just zoom in so that every one of you can see. Just open this up on my browser. So right now we have this blank document that you see over here, and yes, I've zoomed it. Yes, right now if you see, we have this blank document over here, and we'll be building up this website with a static page that you see over here. So I can start off by writing the boilerplate of HTML. I can bring it up. So that stands for HTML5. So if I this is a shortcut. So if I have HTML:5 and I hit enter, you will see that we get this HTML structure in place over here. So over here, let's break down the components first. So the first one is doctype HTML. So doctype HTML basically specifies that the entire document that you see over here, this is going to be an HTML document, and it specifies the version number as well. So it's like we mentioned HTML5 over here, 5 is the version number, and it ensures that the browser interprets it correctly, that this is going to be HTML document which is version 5. Now, next we will look at this HTML tag that you see over here. So the HTML tag that you see over here, so this HTML tag serves as the root element for the HTML document. It tells that this is the starting point for that HTML document. And lang over here, this specifies the language that, okay, the document or the site that we are building, this will be of language EN, that stands for English in our case. So this lang tag is important because it helps the screen readers, or in the accessibility of the screen readers, as well as it helps in the entire SEO process, that is search engine optimization as well. So sorry. So this HTML tag that you see over here, this acts as the entry point for the entire content, and lang specifies the language which is helpful for screen readers and other SEO optimization bit. Now coming to the next bit, that we have two main tags. One is the head and one is the body tag that you see over here. So the head element basically contains the entire metadata of your website, that is, it holds all of the essential properties basically. So for say you want to set up your title of your website, so that this is index.html, but if I save this and if I want to tell this to be recap of HTML and CSS, something like this, so this will hold all of your metadata, or the content that you see over here that might not be directly visible to the user, but yes, that is useful for your entire optimization bit, in case you are planning to add up any sort of, maybe you're planning to add up your, excuse me, in case you're planning to add up your HTML, yes, sure, I'll zoom. Content which are not directly visible to the user, but they are used by different browsers to help identify or locate your website or content on your website, maybe. And now next, coming to this line that you see over here, that is meta name, viewport, and content width device with an initial scale of 1.0. So what doing, this is basically telling the browser that, oh, even if you're opening this website on a mobile device, take the entire width of the device, that is from end to end, and initially scale it to 100% of the size. So you can think of the initial scale as one of the zoom values, where you're setting up that the initial scale could be 1.0 for the width, and you can change this value as well. So this was for the viewport, and this chart set that you see over here, this character set tells the browser about the document's character encoding, that we are going to use UTF-8 as the character encoding to ensure that the characters are getting rendered properly. So this was about the head tag. We will still look at more tags about the CSS bit when we include the style tag inside of the head. Now coming next to the body tag. So this tag is the main tag actually, where whatever content you have over here, it will be visible to the user. So whatever content that you place inside of this body tag, this will be visible to the user. So this, you can think of the body tag, where this is the place where you all of your HTML tags, like your text, link, images, and other tags. Basically the component where the components with which the user will interact with the website, those things are covered under this tag. Now let's look at the first component that we are going to build. That could be this header that you see over here, that says HTML and CSS recap. So for that, what we can do is we can have a header tag over here, something like this, and inside of the header tag I can have a h1 tag actually. Now I can have h1 and I can have HTML and CSS recap. I can write something like this. and I can save this. Now when I refresh, you will see that we get this text on the screen that says HTML and CSS recap basically. And with that, let's try to add some sort of styling to this as well. So instead of the head tag, I can write this style tag. So this style tag will hold all of our CSS components basically. All of CSS components would go here. And so there are three ways by which you can actually define your CSS. One is the inline CSS, one is external CSS, and the last one is internal CSS. So inline CSS is when you are writing CSS in line with the components. I can have something or style tag over here, I can have a property over here, and the property will take in the specified value. So this is inline CSS. Internal CSS is this CSS which when we write CSS inside of our HTML document itself. Sorry guys, inside of our HTML document itself. And external CSS is when we are segregating that into a different CSS file and we are calling that CSS file again. So for our use case, for now we will be going with writing internal CSS. So over here for the body tag, I can have something like this. So I'm selecting the body tag, and maybe I will just give it some attributes over here. So I can have font family. So for font family, I can go with Arial and sans serif or something like this, and I can give it a default margin of 0 to the entire body and a padding of 0 pixel as well. And I want to set the background color to maybe 0. So this will give you a shade of white. Now when I refresh, you will see that your body color got changed, and this thing moved to the entire left side because we have zeroed out the entire left and right bit. Now with this, let's style this header to follow our use case basically. So for that, I can again select the header tag in our case. Just reading the, yes sir, it is a revision session. So over here in the header tag, I can give it a background color for the entire header tag. So I can give this to be maybe this color over here that you see. This will give you a shade of, I don't know, and not exactly black, but kind of a darker color. I can set the color of the text over here to white. That is FFF. This will give you a white color. And I can set the padding to be 20 pixels from each side in this case. And I can also set the text alignment over here to center. So what this will do is, this will give us one entire so whatever we had seen in this website over here, we are getting the same sort of styling over here. This the what we did over here is we selected the entire header tag and we added a background color to this. So this color that you see is coming from this 333. So I can replace this with some other color, and when I save and refresh, you'll see that this color becomes lighter now. So I selected the header element over here basically. And so there are different ways by which you can select the element. Select the CSS element. The first one is using the tags itself. So that is header and body in this case. And there is something, so there is a different type of selector, that is class selector, where you can select any element using the class name. So if you can give any of the elements a class, and I can give it a class name of maybe a header class, and you can call that header class to follow certain header class to follow certain styling. So I can apply something like color, and if I save this and refresh, you will see that the entire color and this text color changes. So we have selected this class. So wherever, if we have 2 or 3 different headings in this case, and I save, you'll see that the same styling will get applied to all of them. So in case I have to change the color for any of the one tags, I can change the color at one place, and the same will get rendered in for all of the components that are present over here. So I'll just undo this bit. So I'll just remove this class. So this was class selector. There is the next type of selector that is called as the ID selector. So I can have something called ID over here, and I can say header class ID. And to select that, I just have to replace it header class ID, something like this. I can remove this for now, and I can give the color as well. So I can give the color to be maybe something like this. I can give the font size to be something like this as well. I can give 120 pixels. Now when I save and refresh, you'll see that the text is huge and we get this entire background color and everything in place. And the difference between ID selector and class selector is you can reuse a class selector, but in case of ID selectors, this you can use this only once. So this is unique in nature. No, Rupa, this I was just going through the HTML and CSS. We are recapping it over. So now let me remove this as well, and I will remove the ID because we want to keep it fairly simple. Now when I refresh, you'll see that we get this center thing. So over here, what we are doing is we are setting the background color that is coming from this color over here. We are setting the color of the text, so this color tag gives the color to that very text, and we are applying the padding of 20 pixels. So padding is the area that you see around this bit. So if I increase this to maybe 50 pixels, then you will see that this area increasing. So the area that increase, that area is the padding bit. Now I'll just keep it 30 for now, maybe, or 20 for now. And this text align center is aligning this text towards the center. So I can have something like this, sorry. And if I refresh, you will see that the text is aligned towards the end of the entire. So you can think of this as one single column, maybe. So a div maybe, and the text got aligned towards the center. There are different ways by which you can align your text. One is end, one is start, where your text will get aligned towards the start. One is justify, where your text so if there are multiple texts, then justify could align it, but for our use case we'll just be centering it for now. So this is how you created a simple header having one h1 tag, that is one top level heading tag. So there are total of 6 heading tags present, whereas h1 through h6. So h1 is the biggest type of heading and h6 is the smallest one you can think of. And after that we added up some styling to the header section, and we added some styling to the body part. So in the body we changed the default font family, and we added the font family to be Arial, Helvetica and sans serif. We added the margin and padding to be 0. So if I remove this margin and padding and I refresh, you will see that there is some sort of default margin and padding that is being taken by this entire component from left, right, top and bottom as well. But the bottom part isn't visible because there is no content, but as we add content you will get the idea. So for now this entire area is now covered up. Now let's look at the next section. So in the next section we have this very simple navigation bar, if you may, where we have 2 or 3 different components basically, that is home, about and contact. So for this what we can do is we can have a very simple nav tag over here, that is the navigation tag. I can have a nav tag, so I'll just add some comments over here so that I can segregate header section here, and I can have one more comment over here that says navigation bar section here. Excuse me. So what is happening over here is, so the entire use case of comments is that for say I am coming back to this code after a year or so, or maybe I'm just want to organize out my code. So using this nav tags and using these comments, I can get to know that this section starts here or this section ends here, or how this section flows basically. So I can have this nav tag over here, and inside of the nav tag I can have an unordered list, that is ul. So nav tag, so there are 2 types of tags that I can use inside of nav, that is ul and ol. So ul stands for unordered list and ol stands for ordered list. So inside of ul I can have an li. So the li stands for list item, which I like to call it as well, so which stands for list item. And inside of the list item we can have home, and let's do this for 3 of them: home, about and contact. So I can have li, this will take in a contact, and I'll take one more li, which will be, let's do this about us maybe, and let's do this as contact us. So now when I refresh, you will see that we get this sort of unordered list in place over here. Now let's try to first remove the buttons, these bullet icons that are there on the left. So for that, in the css styling bit, I can write in nav. So I'm calling the nav element. Inside of the nav element, I'm calling the unordered list element basically, that is ul. And inside of the, for this very tag, that is nav and the ul, I will be setting the style. So for the primary style I will set is list style type, which I can set to none. Now when I refresh, you'll see that those buttons go away. Excuse me. Now let me also remove the margin and padding that this might be taking. So from the left, so I'll just make it 0. Just add margin to be 0, and I'll add padding to be 0 as well. Now when I refresh, you'll see this sticks entirely to the left side because I have zeroed out all of the margin and padding that was there. Now let's try to make changes to this li items inside of this. Let's make it in a straight line. So I can again call this to be nav ul. So this I'm calling the navigation bar, then I'm calling the unordered list, then I'm calling the li, that is list items. Now I can set the display to be inline, and I can as well as set the let's first try this. You will see that we get this in one single line basically over here. Now let's try to add some sort of spacing between these, because these are sticking to each other. So I can have a margin right, and I can add a 15 pixel maybe. Now when I refresh, you will see that we get this sort of spacing between these items. Excuse me, sorry guys. Yes, so what happened is we are adding some sort of spacing between these. So this spacing, we have added a spacing of 15 pixel among all of this. So this spacing came from this margin tag that I have used. Now you will see that we have created this very basic navigation bar, but right now this is not clickable. So we can make this clickable using anchor tags. So what I can do is we can have a anchor tag over here, and inside of this href. So href is basically the hyperlink where we will specify where it should route. But for our use case, since we are not routing it to anywhere, for default I will be setting it to sharp, and I can mention over here home. Similarly, I will do the same thing for all of these tags, href, and I can add sharp. For now I can add about us, and then again for this I can have href. This will be of sharp, and this is contact us. Now when I save, so guys, you'll see that these spacing and everything is taken care when I hit save. So this is handled by this prettier extension that I'm using. So you can find this extension here inside of your extensions. You can come over here, you can search for prettier, and you will see that you get this prettier code formatter, which you can use to basically align out and style out your content, html basically. Now when I save, you will see that these now have become hyperlinks basically. So right now when you click on them, nothing happens, but yes, we will be looking at how we can make them work. Now after this li, now let's style out this entire higher anchor tags that we have. So I will be selecting those anchor tags by using nav, then the unordered list, then the list items, and then I will be choosing the anchor tags in this case, and I will be setting the color. I can set the color to white color for now. Let's come back to this later once we decide upon the color. So text decoration could be none for now, and I can add some padding as well, so that this does look good to us. So I can add this padding, and when I refresh, you will see that we get this white text and some padding as well. But yes, this isn't visible because we haven't added any background color. So let's try adding background color to the entire navbar over here. So I can have the entire navbar tag. I can add a background color of maybe something like this is a color that you see. This will give you some sort of a grayish black background. So I've added that. Let me add some padding as well. So the padding would be of 10 pixels. And let me also align this to the center, because navigation bar are tend to align to center. Now when I refresh, you will see that we get this navigation bar in place, and we have made this as clickable as well. So we can click and we can use them as we want. So we have added this section as well. So this section that you see, so there is some sort of difference if you see between the sizing and this color. So let's fix that as well. So instead of, I guess it was 444 that I had used, so I can refresh. So this color is now in place, but this spacing between these items look very much right now. So I can add, so to fix that, let's reduce the spacing between this margin components by 5 pixels. I will see that the spacing also reduced. And yes, let's keep this like this for now. Let's go through the chat messages once. Okay, so now we are done with the very basic header that you see over here and the navigation bar that you see over here. Now let's try to add these content that you see over here. So for that, we can create a new section maybe. So after the nav bar, let's create a new section tag. And inside of this section, let's give it a heading of 2, that is h2. And I can write welcome to HTML and CSS recap maybe. And I will save this. When I refresh, you'll see that we get this content which is sticking to the left right now, but we'll be playing around the sizing and everything. So this is the heading level 2 that you see that is present over here. Now let me try adding a paragraph tag as well, which will hold some paragraph. So for now I can just write lorem ipsum. So lorem ipsum, for all of you those who aren't aware, so lorem ipsum is basically the text. It is like a placeholder text that you can use. So if you have your website design ready and the content isn't ready yet of now, but you want to test out on how your content is looking and how exactly your website will look when you put in actual content. But if your, for say, your content team hasn't prepared the content or something, then you can always use lorem ipsum, which is like a placeholder text, which will give you some random text over here, which you can use to place it on your website and see how it looks. So for now I'll be using lorem ipsum. When I save and refresh, you will will see that we get this single line of text that says something, but this serves our purpose at least. So over here you will see that we get this padding from left and right, and this isn't sticking to the left side like ours is. So we'll fix that bit now. So for fixing that bit, let me add some styling to the section element. So for the section element, I can add a padding of 20 pixels from each side. So when I save, you'll see that this entire spacing got from left and right side everywhere. So this this spacing and everything is now as per our requirement, that was this website basically. Now let's try creating that button in place. So to create that button, we can have inside the section tag only, I can have button and I can have click me. This is something like this, something could be happening. Now when I refresh, you'll see that you get this default style, very boring looking button. So we have to style this button as well. So to style the button, let's first add a background color to the button so that it looks good at least. So I can have a background color of blue, and for the text color I can use white, the default color of with blue. So when I see that you get this blue colored button in the background with the text color in white, and you get this border, some sort of a border, but again this button really is still the old type of button. So let's try removing the border first. So I'll just remove the border by saying border none. Now when I save and refresh, you'll see that you get this sort of a button which has no border. And now let's add some padding to this button from each side so that this button looks good to us at least. Now when I save, you will see that now this actually looks like a proper button at least. And let's try changing the mouse cursor, that whenever we hover, this should change to a pointer. So we can use a cursor property and I can set pointer over here. Now when I refresh, you will see that this changes into a pointer, indicating that after this, when you click on me, something should happen. But since our use case, nothing is happening, but this is indicating, and this is a good UX, that when I click on this, something should be happening. So this let's again revisit what we had covered. So just go through the chat messages once. So I'll just cover up this doc type and HTML bit. So with this, so coming back to the HTML structure, so what happened is, so what we did is we have defined this doc type HTML over here. That specifies that this is going to be a HTML document. And coming to the next line, the next tag basically, that is HTML tag. So this HTML tag serves as the root element of the HTML document. So you can think of this as the entry point. And then lang that you see over here, this specifies the language that this is going to be in English. So this lang is equal to en is important for screen readers, where it will help in aiding in accessibility for screen readers, and also it will help in the entire SEO process, that is search engine optimization as well. Now coming to the head element that you see over here. So this head element contains all of the metadata about your website or your web page, which is essential, which act as the essential information for your browser basically. So this head tag will contains the first line that says chart set as UTF-8. So this character set UTF-8 denotes that, okay, so this basically means that this UTF-8 denotes your document's character encoding, that ensures that whatever howsoever content that you want to write over here, how the content will get rendered and other properties related. And now coming to the next line, that is this viewport. So this is important when you are building a way. So this is important for while when you're working for responsive web design. So this line basically means that on whichever device you're opening, for say you're opening this website on a mobile device, excuse me, so say you're opening this website on a mobile device. So this width is equal to device hyphen width. This mentions that take the entire width of the device, that is from edge to edge, and initially scale it to 100%. So you can think of this as the zoom value maybe. And so it is saying to zoom it by default to 100%, that is 1.0. And this device width is telling that, okay, take the entire width of the device, that is from end to end. Now this title tag that you see over here, this will appear up over here on the website basically. Over here, if you see recap of HTML and CSS, so this title that you see over here is coming from this title tag. And this style tag that you see over here will hold all of your CSS styling. So there are three ways by which you can use CSS in your you can use CSS in your HTML document. The first one is inline styling, the second one is external CSS, and the third one is internal CSS. So inline CSS is basically when you are writing the styling in line with your component. So the components that I have over here, I can write them in line with the main tags itself. So the tag will go like, I can go style, and I can then write the property followed by the value separated by this colon over here that you see. So I can write all of these values over here. So this is inline CSS. Internal CSS is this bit. So the style, whatever styles that you find inside of your style tag, this is your inline internal CSS. And if I am creating a CSS file separately, so I can move all of these styles. I'll just create a, I can move all of this style. I can create a style or CSS over here and I can paste this. So I can link all of this using a link tag. So link tag will take in two attributes. The first one is relation, that is rel, that stands for relation. So this tag basically tells what sort of document is getting linked. So it could be an CSS document, it could be some other document. So for us, since we are linking a CSS document, we will be mentioning style sheet over here, link, sorry, rel, and I will be mentioning style sheet. And then I will be using href, which specify the path to the CSS file. So this is external CSS, where I have all of the CSS styles defined in one file, and I'm linking that file to my main HTML file. So when I refresh, you will see that no visible changes happen because we are using the same CSS. But if I change this color to maybe something else, to this button color, and I refresh, you'll see that this button color changes, which tells that your CSS file has been linked properly and it's fine. So this is the way you can link external CSS. If you are defining your styles inside of your style tag over here, then that is internal CSS. And inline CSS is when you are defining all of your styles in line with the element. So these are the types by which you can link your CSS. I'll just move the styles to here for now. I can paste it. Now coming to the next tag, that is body. So this body is the main tag that you can think of. So this body is basically the tag which your user will interact. So whatever components that you see, or when as a user, whatever that you see on the website, and when you want to interact, you can place those tags inside of this body tag. Now coming to our components that we had built. So the first component that we had used is this upper heading. So this upper heading consists of a header tag. This header tag consists of a h1 class, h1 tag, sorry, and this h1 tag has this HTML and CSS recap inside of it, and we are defining the style for this header. So the syntax for CSS works like we are calling up that element or a class. So we can call a class using dot class name, and you can call a ID using sharp that ID name. And the difference between class and ID is the class and ID can be used only once, so it is unique, but class can be used multiple times. So over here, we are calling the element, and we are setting up the background color over here, that is 333, and we are then setting up the color. So this is this background color, and this color that you see over here, this is the white color to this text that is present. Then we are giving a padding of 20 pixels. So padding is basically the area around this text, this area that you see. This is given by the padding that is of 20 pixel. And text align center is aligning the content to the center on the screen. So there are different values as I had shown you. The first one is center, the second one is start, the third one is end as well. So start and end will align your content towards the start or end as the words say. So over here, we added this styling to the tag, and that stapling is getting applied. The second, here we created this navigation bar section over here. When we tap on this, something should happen. So over here, we are using this nav tag. So this navigation tag that you see over here, this consists of, this takes in two sort of tags, that is UL and OL. So this UL stands for unordered list, which will give you an unordered list, and OL will stand for ordered list, which will give you an ordered list like 1 2 3 4, and it continues. So inside of this UL tag, I'm using an LI. So LI will stand for list item. So this li tag will has all of your routing. So over here I can have a home, about us, and contact us. And to make it functional, that is, to when I click on it, something should happen. So I'm using this anchor tag. So anchor tag basically will take the href, that is the href is the hyperlink to which it should redirect once when you click on it. So this href is sharp for now. So sharp is when your routes aren't defined but you still have to mention, so you can use sharp over here. So I have created a similar for all three of them. So that is home, about us, and contact us. And then I added styling. So initially removed the buttons, the bullet points from the navigation bar. So for that I selected the unordered list from the nav. So that is why we mentioned nav and UL, and we set the list style type to none over here, and we removed any margin and padding that the tag might be taking. So over here we using this, we remove the bullet point, and as well as we removed any margin and padding. After that we made it inline. So after that, we selected the li content basically. So from the navigation bar, and from the navigation bar we selected the unordered list, and from the unordered list we then selected this list item. So inside of this list item we then set up the display. So the display has been in line, so that is why this became in one single line that you see over here. And then we added the margin right of 10 pixel. So this margin right is this space basically that you see between these components. So this space that you see, we gave this a space, some space, otherwise it was sticking to each other. So this is the margin right that we used. And after that, if we styled the anchor tags that were present. So we then selected all of the anchor tags. So we first selected a navigation bar, then we selected the unordered list. Inside of the unordered list we selected the list item. So navigation bar, unordered list item, and then we chose the anchor tag basically. And then we styled the anchor tag, that we said that the text color should be white. So right now you'll see the text color to be white. You will see there is no text decoration to this, otherwise you would get this underlined kind of a styling that was there. So that this underline styling, this shows that these are links basically. And then we added some sort of padding to over here, to not just to space out them and to make it look good. So if I remove the padding, we'll see that these are much closer. But just to segregate them and to allow some spacing, I have added some padding among these items as well. And we have this thing ready. And then coming to the styling for this navigation bar, so we are using a background color to be 4:4. So this will give you this light shade of background from the top one. So the reason why we are doing this is because this is the header section. So you can have your website's main name or company name over here, and you can, but you have to segregate your navigation bar from the header so that it remains separated and it doesn't mix up. So that is why I used a different color shade of the black or gray color maybe, and I have aligned the content navigation bar to center using textile in center, and I have added some padding of 10 pixel so that you get this at least some sort of spacing. Now I can change this to, if I change this to 30 pixel, you'll see that we get this huge navigation bar which we do not need. So I will keep it to 10. And we have this navigation bar. If I have to link pages, so I can create a new HTML file over here. This will say about us.html. I will follow the same pattern. I can have about us over here, and inside of this body tag I can have a paragraph tag that says something like, just a minute, I'll just have lorem ipsum in place. I can have one header tag that says about us, something like this. And I can link this HTML file onto this about us. So instead of sharp, I will have about us.html file. And when I refresh, just you can focus over here, this last section. You will see that for home, we are getting index.html sharp. For about us, we are getting about us.html. And when I click, you will see that the about us page opens up. So the anchor tag works as we want, and this arrows will work just like in any other website as well. So we have this very common about us page in place. Now for contact us also, we can do the same thing by creating a new page called contact us.html. I can have HTML5. I can create contact us. I can have one heading that says contact us, and I can have a paragraph tag that takes in lorem ipsum as well over here. And I can use lorem ipsum so number of times that I want. Yes, so I can use how many so times I want, and I can then link it over here. Instead of contact us, instead of sharp, I can give this to contact us.html. Now when I refresh, you'll see that the contact us page appears up. When I click, you will land up on the entire contact us page. Now coming to the next bit where we have some content on the screen. So for that some content, we have this heading in place, and we have a paragraph that says some detail. So for that, I'm using a section tag. So I'm using the section tag so that if we have multiple sections maybe, so I can have this section, I can use a horizontal rule. So HR stands for horizontal rule, which will give you a line running from left to right, just like this. Now I can uncomment and I can add a different section. So what happens when you are working and when you are working on multiple sections, or you want to make your code readable, you can always you divide them into different sections, and you can add comments like this that says welcome section here, and over here you can have section 2 here, something like this. Your section name could be anything that is present over here. So it could be section welcome section here, and this is section 2 here. Now I can change the name as well to this, and I can add more content over here maybe. So when I refresh, you will see that the content runs from left to right and however you want. And yes, now coming to the styling bit for the section tag, we have styled our component to look we have styled a component to take 20 pixels. So this is taking, both of the sections are taking 20 pixels from each other, from all of the four sides. So you'll see that over in the horizontal rule over here, there is some spacing above this as well. So there is enough spacing for the section tag. And inside of the section tag, we have this button. So if we have styled the button, so without this styling, the button was looking very old fashioned and 10 years down, or 1950 website button. So we have added the styling to follow some background color, the text color. We have removed the default border, and we have adding the padding as well. So this is how the button looks. This cursor tag that we have over here, when we are setting it to pointer, this basically means that we hover over it, it will give you a pointer. The cursor will change to a pointer. So this will indicate that this from the UX point, the user will come to know that this button is clickable, and when I click on it, something should happen. Right now nothing is happening, but yes, this will give you a UX feel. Yes. So does anyone have any questions or queries till now? So this was a very basic website that we tried to replicate using HTML and CSS. Yes. Any questions? So this was a very fair basic recap of HTML and CSS. Now let's look at the next content that was covered before, that was Bootstrap. So when we creating this simple form using Bootstrap, which when we hit on submit, we can land up on a success page or something like that. So this is a very fairly simple Bootstrap page. There is no design to this, but yes, let's try to revamp this as well. So for this, I'll just create up a new file called Bootstrap indexboot.html, something like this, and I can create a simple HTML document once again. Now when I open this up, I can indexboot.html, sorry, you will see that we get this blank document in place. Now first, let's change the title to follow Bootstrap recap, something like this. So this will change up to Bootstrap recap that is present over here. Now inside of this body tag, we can now add the same type of styling maybe, if we may. So I can have a header over here. That header will take each one, that is the top level heading, and I can say Bootstrap recap over here. And I can, if I may, then I can apply the same styling. So I can create a new file called stylesheet.css, and I can link this style sheet inside of our head tag just like we did before. So I can use link, I can give the relation. So this relation is style sheet, and I can give the href, that is the path to over here. So that is stylesheet.css, stylesheet.css. So now I can add all of my styling that I have. So first, let's add some sort of styling to the body. So I can add up a font family. Let's go with Times New Roman and Georgia, this one. And after this, I can give the default margin and padding to be 0 pixels from each side. The padding can be 0 as well. And let's add a background color. Let's keep it to 99. I forgot the sharp because I'm using a hex code. Now when I refresh, you will see that you get this Bootstrap recap over here and this blank background. Just like in the last example, I will be styling the header tag once again. So in the header tag, I will be giving a background color. I can give the background color to 3, and I can as well as use a color. So the text color could be white, that is this F. I can add a padding of 20 pixel from each side, as well as I can align it to center for now. Center. Now when I save, just a minute, background color body. I have named my style sheet to be wrong. That is, I have did a typo over here. This is STYLE style sheet. Now when I save and refresh, this worked. So I had done a typo while creating the file name of CSS. So that is why the CSS didn't work in the very first place. So right now. So this is the kind of font that you got with Times New Roman and Georgia, and this is the font that you had gotten with, what was this that I had used, the Arial, Helvetica and Sans Serif. So this is the difference between the font family. So I have just written a bootstrap recap over here, and next I have to next I have to add up the bootstrap bit. So for adding bootstrap, there are different ways by which you can add bootstrap. So the first way is by using the CDN. The second way is by saving the bootstrap file to min.css locally and calling that using the link tag. The third one is by using npm package, npm package manager. So the node package manager, not the npm package manager, but the node package manager, which will install bootstrap for you based on whatever version you want. So for our use case, I will be linking it using your CDN. So for that, I will be linking it over here that says bootstrap CSS linking. So over here, I'll just pull up the linking CDN from getbootstrap.com. So if I land up over here, you will see that you will get access to this CDN that you see over here. So I'll just bring up that URL and I can link it below over here. So we are specifying the part to this bootstrap CDN, and we are specifying the relation. Basically, as I mentioned, that the link tag gives you the relation with the file that you're trying to link. So I link the bootstrap using the CDN. Now let's create a simple form, but before that, let's link the other part. So bootstrap also gives us with access to certain JavaScript and jQuery classes. So they might not be needed for all of the components to work, but it's a good practice to always link them. Just a minute. Yes, it's a good practice to always link them, because there are certain components like tooltip and other components of bootstrap that depend on popper.js and other files. So if you are not linking bootstrap, the JS file and the jQuery file of bootstrap, then those components won't work. So without taking the risk, I'll just link the bootstrap and jQuery file. I'll just pull them up. So if you need access, you will find the links to these in the documentation as well. So when I can save and I can refresh the page, you will see that the structure changes and there are certain change effect that happened on CSS front, the font family and other bit, after we have linked the bootstrap file basically. Now let's look at the form that we have. We have this very simple form that takes in the full name, that takes in the email address, and the last one it takes in the password as well. And we have this submit button, clicking on which something should happen. So to build this, we can write up our comment that says, let's build this as maybe contact us form here. Now let's first start up with a div. So the div, I can give the div of a container. So I just gave this a class of container. And so what happens when I'm giving this class name of container, this in the bootstrap CD, the container will create up a responsive, you can think of this as a responsive box maybe, that will center itself horizontally, and whenever you want to resize your screen, it will resize it properly by placing it not exactly center of the screen, but by placing it at the center of the container, center of the place where you want to keep it. So I'm just using a div container for now over there. Now inside of this div container, I can have a h1 that says contact us from below. Now I can save this, and when I refresh, you'll see that you get this contact us form below code. Let's add some sort of a spacing, or we can do that later actually. So let's come back to the styling bit once later, and then I can have a form tag. We will look at this action thing later. So what this action does. So for now, let's remove this. Now inside of this form tag, I can have a new div. I can give the class name to be a form group. So what form group does over here is, so basically form group will wrap each form field. So when is going forward, when we are creating these fields over here that you see, full name, last name, so these input fields, whatever it will do is it will wrap all of the fields with a corresponding label. So like this field has this label of full name, this field has a label of email, and this field has a label of password. So it will link, or it will wrap all of the input fields with the corresponding label, which and from the CSS side, this will also help you to give specified sizing and spacing. And this layout that you see, this is coming from form control. So we are using this div class name of form control, and inside of this form group, sorry, not form control, this is form group. And now we will be using a label tag basically. This label tag will take in the full name. So I'm just linking it over here. This is full name. So I'm using label for full name, and I can give the label tag to be this full name. And now coming to the input tag. So input tag over here. We will be defining what kind of input that we want to take. But since this is a full name for the user, we'll be writing type, and I will be giving text because we'll be collecting the name of the user. So this will be in text. Next, we'll be giving the class. The class will be form control, control. Now the class is form control. The ID is full name. So since this is a unique identifier, as I had mentioned that ID is unique than class, so we'll be using ID as full name, and we can be using a placeholder text as well, which will say please enter your full name. Now let's save and run this. Now you will see that you get this label over here that gives you this input type, that is enter your full name, and when you click you get this nice shadow across, and this entire field also gets selected. Now let's do the same thing for email as well. So I'll have one more label tag in place, and before label tag I'll have a div in place. So div will take in the class name to be the same, that is form group, and this form group will in turn take in the label name with the class name of not the class name but label for, and we can have over here as email. I can have something like email over here, and I can have an input tag. So with the input tag, I can give the type to be of email, because when we specify the type to be email, this then checks for your entire kind of email. So that is if the user is using at the rate, if there is proper domain setup, if the user is validating the email, so it will do all of the validation for you. So we can use email. I can use the same class name, that is form control, not group. So I'll be using form control. Next, I'll be using an ID, that is a unique identifier named email, and I can use a placeholder that says please enter your email, something like this. Now, when I save, you'll see that you get this email. Let's add some spacing before the email. I use a BR, that stands for break line. So I'll just to add some spacing, I've used this. And after this, let's add a new div over here that will take in your message maybe. So I can have a class that says form group, and over here I can have a new label. The label for we can have as message from user, and I can have over here your message or query. I can have something, then I can have one more input tag as well. Now I can give this of type text. I can have class that is form control. I can have this ID of message from user, and I can have placeholder that says like please enter your message or query. Now I can save this. Now I will see that we get this field that says please enter your message or query as well. Now after this, let's create a button, that submit button that you had seen. So we can have button. I can make that of type submit over here, and class that takes in button. Let's make it success. I'll just cover up what these are. I can save this. Now you will get this green submit button in place. So now we have created our basic form that was for this contact us, but now when you click on this, nothing really happens. So yes, let's break down this component, try to understand what exactly these are and how exactly these work. So as I had started off, this class container with this div that we have given, this will create a responsive container that centers your content horizontally, and this will also ensure that your content is neatly positioned in the center of the page. Now this form group that you see over here, this form group will wrap each of the content. So this will wrap each of this content that you find inside of this full name, this email, and this message from the user, some message or query. So it will be used to wrap all of these fields with the corresponding label, and this will also help you to provide with a spacing. So this spacing that you see and the visually appealing, so this border, this shadow that you see over here, and this selected border color, so this will give this sort of color which will make it visually appealing. Now coming to the next bit, that is form control. So form control, so when you use form control, this will help you to style each of the text fields that you see over here, and which will should be consistent across browsers. So there are certain components which might work properly in Chrome but might not work properly in Safari or some other places. So what form control will do is it will style them consistently across browsers. So even if you are using a different browser or a different operating system altogether, it will help you to style it accordingly. And as well as if you are using form group over form control, then this will help you to space out all of your padding, border, the font style, whatever you want to type in. So all of this styling it will handle. So the consistency is maintained. And now coming to this submit button. So over here we use this button class and button hyphen success. So how Bootstrap works is, even if you are using the CDN or if you are using the local version, Bootstrap will give you access to a couple of classes basically, and those classes in turn will give you the linked CSS. So somewhere in the CD style has been defined. For BTN class, the color should be green, or for BTN success class, the color should be green. Just like in the previous example, we had selected nav ul li and we did this styling. Similarly, in case of Bootstrap, it is saying that okay, for button and button success, the color should be green. This is the green color that we got, and this nice hover effect that we are getting. Similarly, if there are certain values that you can use other than success, that is, you can use danger. So if a user is trying to delete his or her account, you can always give them a red button, something like this. And if it is an information button, so if you have a form or something and if you have added a button, there tapping on that will open up a small dialog box kind of a structure where you're giving some sort of information. So you can use button info and you will get this nice, I'm not sure what this color is called, but this colored button over here which will give you, which tells that this will be an info button. Similarly, there are other types of button as well. So you can have outline, primary, which will give access to some transparent button like this, and when you hover it will get filled up and the text content is changing to white. Similarly, you can have success and you will get this transparent white colored layout button, and when you hover, you the green color fills up and the text color changes to white. So these are the kind of button you can get access to. So this was about the Bootstrap classes. Now coming to the HTML bit that we had covered. There are no messages. So coming to the HTML bit that we had covered. So this form element that you see over here, this is coming from HTML. So form tag basically defines that below code is going to be an HTML form that will collect information from the user. It can be anything from your name, email ID, password, message, text area. It could be anything. So this form tag denotes that bit. Now this label tag that you see over here, this label tag basically means that when you click on this label, so over here, as I have set the label name to be full name, so when you click on this, acts as a focus. You may think of that you are linking the input field and you are linking this label with this field, basically thereby improving the accessibility and user experience, that this label hold whatever value that you have inside of this. And the input tag that you see that I've used at different places, that is over here and here. The input tag basically allows users to input the user data. We can have different values under the type attribute. Over here I have text, over here I have email, and for this message I can have text. Similarly, I can create one more div just in case. I can have class of form group. Once again, I can have a label. This label could be for password maybe, and I can say password. And then I can have an input tag in place. So this input tag will take in the type of password, and this class of control, once again, as I showed you, it will take in the ID of password, and it will take in the placeholder of please enter your password maybe, and I can save this. Now you will see that you will get one more field, password. So the, because we have specified the type to be of password, whatever you entered, it will be blocked out in this manner. The same thing isn't happening over here because we are using for text. And similarly for email, since we have specified the type to be email over here, you will see that if in my Chrome suggestions we are getting these emails in place. And for message or query, since we have mentioned text, there is nothing, no suggestion that is coming up. So this input type will give you access to different types of fields. Now the coming to the next bit, that is this placeholder. So this placeholder is basically telling more about your field. So if you have your message over here, so I have written a generic statement that goes like please enter your message or query or something like this. But in reality, your placeholder text will hold something called, if you are for password, you can have please enter your password should be minimum of 7 characters maybe, consisting of letters, numbers, and special characters, something like this. So as a user, when I land up, I'm aware that my password should be consisting of these characters and these numbers and however you want to keep it. So it will act as that. And this submit button that you see over here, this submit button is telling, after the user has filled up the form and the user wants to submit it, what type of action do you want to handle. That action handling happens inside of this action tag that I had mentioned in the starting, that I can specify whatever I want. I can give it, for now I can give it index.html maybe. So what we are specifying over here is, when the user clicks on this button, what should happen. So we are specifying that happening or that action inside of this form tag. So I can click on submit. Oh, I need to refresh. And when I hit on submit, you will see that we land up on this home screen from our last example, because I have specified the routing to index.html basically. So this is how, the forms handle your routing. So similarly, if I have entered my details, so I can have my name, I can have my email, I can have my password maybe, or something like this, and I can have my message here. So when I hit on submit, you will see that you land up on this very page, and you this submit button is working this. So in the backend, so if you have your maybe your server or something set up where you will be needing, or your database setup where you will be needing to store or append this data basically. So on submit, you can always add your data over there. Yes, so you can add your data over here. So you can add your endpoint or whatsoever your structure has been set up, and you can add all of this data over there. Similarly, instead of any file, you can also route to any page. You can, I will specify the protocol, the google.com. I will specify something like this, and I can refresh. Now I can enter my name, email, my some password, and I can also send message over here, and I hit on submit. You will see that you will end up on google.com, something like this. So instead of google.com, what we can do is we can create up a new page that says success.html. I can have a HTML5 page over here, which goes like success screen. I can have a h1 tag that says account created successfully, something like this, and I can save this. Now I can route it to success.html. That as a user, if I'm creating my account, I should be adding my content. I am adding my password, I added this, and I hit on submit. You will see that right now I did it directly, but you would be having your own conditions in place, that if your account creation has failed or your data couldn't get appended, then you can always show a error screen, or you can show this success screen that I showed you right now. So that bit was the success bit. Now coming to this jQuery and JavaScript dependency that I had added. So basically, as I had mentioned, that certain bootstrap components such as your tooltip, your drop downs, your modals, and for some sort of form validations, you would need to link your JavaScript and jQuery files. So you can think of these as the bootstrap dependencies basically, which hold your logic or which hold your functions that will validate your form validations and other modules or other components that you use. Out of this jQuery that you see, this is a slim.min.js file. So this file, so this basically what this will do is, this will reduce your file. So this will basically reduce your file size, and this will also improve your load times for your website. So your certain components or certain files, the file size will get reduced, and your website will start opening up quickly. This popper.js that you see, this is used for positioning and alignment of components. So if you're using a tooltip, so tooltip is basically that I button that you find whenever you hover or you click on it, you get a pop-up over it. So that for those components to appear, for the positioning and alignment of those components, we use this popper.js library. And now finally coming to this bootstrap.min.js file that you see. So this file is used to enable the interactive behavior of the bootstrap component. That is, it will help you to enable all of your drop downs and your responsive navigation that you find. So these things will get enabled after you link your bootstrap, the JavaScript file of bootstrap. Instead of a .html, let us try to link this file. So that is for boot. Yes, does anyone have any questions or queries till now? Any questions? And yes, bootstrap does make it responsive. So you will see that when I inspected out the screen, and when I right clicked and went to inspect, you will see that different screen sizes. This does set up the entire form and everything based upon the screen width. So we are not exactly setting it up manually with the font width of the different screens. But when I come to my HTML page, you will see that this might not be as responsive as the Bootstrap screen was. This header and everything, they still remain constant, but with Bootstrap handles that for us. So we will see that all of this to be resizing, including the header and these components as well. So this is the advantage of Bootstrap. Yes. Does anyone have any questions or queries? You can use the chat to ask. Bootstrap also provides us with other functionalities, such as it is cross-browser compatible. That is, your form or your component might look the same, and it will help you. It will give you all of your UI UX effect, just like in Windows and Mac, howsoever the design system works. And also, it is cross-browser functional. So, the components of Bootstrap, you can use it across Safari or your Chrome, your Firefox, whatsoever browser you are using. So this was an overview of HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap basically. So we created a basic file that was this landing page. Sorry, this landing page. And over here we created this simple nav and this content over here, and we created this linking to contact us form, which we created using Bootstrap. Yes. Does anyone have any questions or queries? You can use the chat. Yes, guys. Excuse me. I'll wait for a couple of more minutes just in case anyone has any queries. Yes, guys. Does anyone have any questions, queries? For those who have raised hand, if you have any queries, then you can drop on the chat and I can respond it from there. For those who have raised hand. Dinesh is nothing. Oh, sure. I'll check up on this. Yeah, if we create one section in different class and so class and ID, the basic difference is based upon your purpose of how they are used and how you are using to target certain elements. So that is how your class and ID will be segregated. So if I look at the purpose, so if you want to group certain elements together, so if you want to group certain elements together, then you can use a class. That if you want to apply the same styling or maybe the same behavior or this common characteristic, then you can use classes. Whereas in IDs, if you want to uniquely identify a single element within the entire HTML document, then you can use a ID. The main difference is classes can be applied to multiple elements throughout, whereas ID, it is unique within the HTML element. That is, it ideally it should be only applied to one single element. And while selecting in CSS, a class is selected using a dot and a ID is selected using a sharp. And when I come to differences, if you may, then a main difference that I have come across is about the scope. That classes often have a much wider scope compared and as compared to IDs. And the second bit could be about the uniqueness. That is, classes can be used multiple times throughout the document, whereas IDs must be unique as the name, as I mentioned. So it's unique and should be applied to only one document. Just scroll up just a minute. How to add a logo to a website? Krishna, if you want to add a logo, then if you're adding it to the top of your title bar, that is over here instead of this. So this is called a fab icon. So you can, inside of the link tag, you can add your fab icon. Basically, you can add your image and you can link that. If you want to show it in the body, then you can use your img tag, which will take in src and alt. So src is basically the source of the image. That is, if it is a local image or if you are fetching it from the website somewhere, and so you can specify the URL or your local image path. And alt is the alternate text. So for if in any case, if your image fetching failed or your local image it is unable to access, it will show you that there are text over there basically that your image fetching hasn't failed or some image was there. So that is how you can add it out. Thank you, Dinesh. So Bootstrap is basically a framework, you may say, that is a CSS framework where it will give you all of your content as is. So you can always use HTML and CSS and you can always create this form. But your defaults, you're shipping off. So if you're giving wrong password, then you can add your validation. So there are certain validations in Bootstrap that gives you with. So there is something called is valid and is not valid. So you can use them to validate based on your requirements. So if you're having a password length or something, then you can use it to basically validate and then you can always get them. So there is something called is validated and you can use it. So with JavaScript, you get methods such as validate methods, you can use them. Okay, sure, I'll increase the size, but I don't think after that the content would be visible at once. Okay. So label element is basically means that your content, it acts as a label, as the name says, that it will give you that this the next form or the field that is next to it, that is a entry field for full name, last name. So label name limit, as the name suggests, it is a label. It provides you with more access and other thing. Yes, you can add audio video using media tags. Pavani, I think the can help you out with that. Does anyone have any more questions or queries? Pavani, the facilitator or the point of contact can help you out with this. Can you please CSS file by using save as button? If you're saving your CSS file, then you can your extension has to be .css and you can save it as you want. So if you want to use validating a password pattern, so instead of this password tag wherever you have after this placeholder, I can add up a tag that says pattern. This is this pattern, and inside of this pattern, I can use a regular expression. No, I can use a regular expression basically that says if you want to have A to Z or howsoever you want, you can add that regular expression over here, and then you know your matching and your thing will work that way. So instead of this pattern, you would need to specify your regular expression. Yes. I'm assuming no one has any more questions. Can we provide layout? Can you give me more context on what exactly layout and what exactly your query? I think no one has any more questions, so we can close the session for the day. How can I read? You can create a new file over here just like this, and you can name it howsoever you want, and you can add the extension to be .css. You can use br tag, maybe that is break line, that will help you to give spacing of one line. So if you want multiple br tags, then you will get multiple spacing. But yes, I think we can close the session. No, Rupa, you will be using .css if you want to save a file as CSS. Sure, Sandeep. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It was nice connecting with all of you. Thank you. Good night.